Just stick to your guns, stick to your vision, and do what you're doing, which is affecting people in a very positive way.
This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good morning, Mark Asquith. Previously, episode 381 of the 12-Minute Convos podcast. It's been 2 years, 8 months, 13 days, 45 minutes.
Just keep going, keep moving in the direction that you want to move in, and don't let anyone force you off that path. Just stick to your guns.
That was then, this is now. Mark, how are you doing?
I am pretty good. Thanks for having me back. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's definitely a great pleasure to connect with you. Our last conversation, of course, you brought the light, brought the value, brought the truth. Give us an update. What's going on, please?
Oh, it's been a lot of progress, a lot of change, continuing to focus on podcasting and kind of fulfilling the vision that we always had for the businesses. So, on top of what we were doing, I think a couple of years ago, we now have the podcast websites platform that we used to have. We've now got Captivate.fm, which is a hosting, analytics and marketing platform for podcasts. We've got our recording studio. We've got our consultancy agency for UK-based podcasters. So, yeah, there's a heck of a lot of change that has gone on, but it's been a fun ride.
It's amazing, isn't it? Like, look at what you've accomplished over the couple of years that have passed. It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, like, if we just stop in the space of time, which is today, which is now, which is this second, do you have any regrets when you look back?
The thing is, it's not regrets as such. I think you always are a little hard on yourself, though. My mantra under my personal brand of the more you'll expect from yourself, the more you'll excel, I think always holds true for entrepreneurs and business people and founders. And, there's never any regrets, but I think you always want to move quicker. And you've got to learn and exercise patience is the thing that I've certainly embraced over the last couple of years. The vision that we had for everything that we've done, you've got to really stick to that vision,
Yeah, well, you've definitely done that. Helping other people with the early stages, helping them start is something that was core to who you are. What have you learned from the past couple of years in helping others start?
I think that you can never take anything for granted. We assume that when we're in something that everyone knows the same as we do, and it's ultimately not the case. You can never take anyone else's lifestyle or knowledge or experience or values or ethics or, any part of their makeup. You can never take that for granted. And I think if you stay humble with that in mind, you will never go far wrong. Keep that at the center of everything that you do.
Consistency is key. You've been consistent. What would you suggest to those who are listening? How do they approach consistency?
Just by enjoying what you do. You can't be consistent at something that you dislike without discipline. And, you've got to be disciplined with everything that you do. But at the same time, if you love what you're doing, if you love in building your own kind of lifestyle, then again, if that's central to everything you do, then suddenly it becomes a lot easier to be consistent. So it's just like, someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger always says, or Tiger Woods, the people that have excelled to the very height of their own niche, everything is repetition, just one rep at a time. And if you do that every day, you will ascend.
Do you feel tired?
I think there's always an element of tiredness. There's always an element of tiredness, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's like when you're at the gym, and you come back and your body is racked and worn out, but it's a good worn out. It's never a fatigue. It's always a fulfilled tiredness. So yeah, I do feel tired, but it's always a very positive.
Not living in someone else's version of life is something that you spoke about. How is your version of life going currently, Mark?
Really good, thank you. Yeah, really, really good. Again, back to the patience piece. It's taken a long time and a lot of years to fulfill the vision that we always had, and that's still not complete yet. But when you look back at that patience and the steps and the stepping stones that you've had to take to get to that stage, and when I look back at my own particular journey, yeah, I couldn't be any happier with that. And everything in life is according to the vision that I'd set out. So yeah, absolutely.
Where's the best place for us to go to follow you, to connect with you, to experience what's going on? I mean, the podcast studio, wow, I hope I do get to visit soon. Where's the best place I can go to find out more?
Well, we'd love to have you. You're always welcome, sir. And you can just check it out. Go and check me out, markasquith.com, or you can check out the business, which is Rebel Base Media. Just do a Google search for either of those. You'll find me.
Now, you're the guy that wasn't married when we spoke, no children, it feels as though it's a part of the parcel, the sacrifice that was required to go after the dreams you've gone through. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those things that I think as someone building a business, you do very often forget to do the living part of it, especially in your younger years. But, as you get older, as we all get a little bit older and a little bit wiser, you start to focus on the things more close to home. And, that's certainly the case for me. That's been driven home a lot more. And it's, all is very nice and settled and happy on that side as well. And I think you've got to put yourself first as well. When you're in business, you've got to look after your own life.
There's a conversation that I was opened or privy to very recently. It was a conversation of death and how we have that conversation with ourselves, if we do have it at all. Has that been a conversation that you've had with yourself? Like, I'm going to die, or what I will do to that point?
I think you do face your own mortality as you start to get older, and you start to see, in particular, the people around you that have passed away, the people that you took for granted not so long ago that suddenly aren't around anymore. And I think you do start to face that mortality a tad. And yeah, certainly something that I've considered, what legacy do you want to leave behind? How do you want to affect people? And I think if you look at it through that lens, you do become a little bit more positive in life, and you become a lot lighter, and I think you're conscious of how you interact with people a lot more, because you do want to leave a positive imprint on the world.
Building your team must have been something that would have been challenging at some times. Definitely something that is making what you're doing possible. Shout out to your team, my friend.
Oh, absolutely. We've got an amazing team. We've got Kieran, James, we've got Izzy, we've got Hannah, we've got Lester, we've got Jess. We couldn't do what we do without any of those guys. And in particular, we've set the businesses up to have an individual lead on every product. We've got 4 or 5 different products in podcasting, and being a business that has those, you've got to have a very strong team, and in particular, a strong leader on each product. So yeah, very, very proud of the team, and just the way that they handle themselves and the way that they treat other people.
Well, I'm very proud of you, my friend. It gives me great pleasure to have the opportunity to invite you back onto the podcast, invite you forward onto the podcast, and, have this conversation. Be your podcast accountability partner, if you would. Mark, are you doing what you said you were going to do? And it brings great motivation, great inspiration to see the truth again, in that you set your vision and that you've been consistent, because each one of us, we have to go through the day, right? You can't get to the 3 years after without tarrying through the day. So I want to say thanks. I want to say thanks for being true to your own unique real self. It's really, really a grand opportunity to hear and see you grow, my friend. LinkedIn is a great place to connect with you as well, yeah?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I'm always on LinkedIn, kind of pottering around, getting involved in conversations and posting a little bit of the content that I do. So yeah, absolutely, LinkedIn's a really good place.
Well, my friend, in closing, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Just stick to your guns, stick to your vision, and do what you're doing, which is affecting people in a very positive way.
Love it. Mark Asquith, a pleasure, I treasure. Thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. This podcast is produced by PodEdits. Visit podedits.com for professional podcast publishing.